Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow, with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. We are broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the United Kingdom and across the world. We're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube, on X. And we're broadcasting for a full hour. And folks, we have not one guest tonight, not two guests tonight, but not even three guests. Altogether, we've got four people on the show, and we're just going to be bringing them in almost straight away. And we're going to be discussing the big news, which of course is tomorrow's massive elections throughout Great Britain. And that is going to be the Scottish elections, the Welsh elections, and the English council elections. And to help us, we've got Niall Fraser, we've got Damien Davis of Cheshire Cat Musings, and we're going to also have Ash, Preston journalist, coming on. So let me bring in the guys who are in the studio straight away. Let's begin with Niall. Folks, please do say hello to Niall.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Niall, thank you for joining us. We're going to look forward to hearing your thoughts on the Scottish election tomorrow. And we've also got folks, say hello to Damien. Damien, nice to see you.
Good afternoon or good evening.
You are our expert down on the Mersey, and hopefully you'll enlighten us as to what's going on in the English council elections and also the hop, skip and a jump over from where you stay, which is Wales, and the carry on, which is the Senedd elections. And I say carry on because they've changed it completely now, and they've changed all the boundaries, and they've changed the number of people. There weren't enough members of the Senedd, and so they've increased it by a third, from about something like 60 to I think it's 93 or something like that, which of course is exactly what the Welsh people need, not. So what I'd like to speak about initially is, like, I've called it SNP. Are we in for another 5 years of SNP stagnation and Green envy?
I have other words I would like to use.
What's that word?
Well, it would be nice if you had a government in Scotland that could define the male and female of the species. That might be a start.
Yes. That would be a good place to start, actually.
But then again, we cannot ask for miracles.
Well, actually, I mean, to answer your question, if you want me to just fire out the answer, I mean, I think we are actually in for another 5 years of SNP stagnation. And the Green envy is just going to grow and grow. It's going to become the Green monster, Alistair. I think they'll gain this time as well. Like, I mean, see, as you know, having not participated in this election a lot, to be honest, having viewed it from the outside as, you know, like an onlooker this time, you know, actually, I think the Greens campaign has been the best. I mean, it's actually sad for me to say, but it has actually been the best campaign out of a lot of them. The leaders' debate a week ago or so, I thought Ross Greer came out like head and shoulders above everyone else. It's not that I agree with his politics. I just thought he performed better. It's a shame. But that's the way.
That is a shame.
It is.
That is a big shame. When Ross Greer is performing better than everybody else, you know we have a problem in our country politically.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's more a damning indictment to the lack of caliber in politician in Scotland rather than a ringing endorsement of Ross Greer. I mean, you elected Winston Churchill once, way back when, and now you're not even. Is he even elected, this Ross Greer chap, or is he a list candidate?
No, he's a list candidate, just like the rest of them.
All right, okay, so he's not actually an elected official.
Yeah. But
not elected in the sense that. Not elected in the sense that people didn't actually tick a box next to Ross Greer, but he was top of their list last time around on the west of Scotland, and he managed to get in, and he'll be top of their list in the west of Scotland this time round as well. So he's kind of got a shoe in, basically, unless something goes really, really drastically wrong tomorrow for them. He's going to be back in the Parliament. And Niall, why do you think they've run a good campaign? You said it was the best.
Well, again, like it's the comparison. Everyone else is scandal ridden. Everyone else is sort of arguing amongst themselves, infighting over list seats. I mean, the Greens had a tiny bit of that in the beginning, where the Lorna Slater. I can't remember what every time the list positions come out, there's like jostling for positions and there's infighting. But I just think the Greens have been more cohesive with their message this time. I see some of the comments. Catherine Rainey, what about reform? A great campaign. I'm not sure if I agree totally. I mean, the campaign, it could have been so much better, Catherine. I mean, you can't deny that fact. I mean, it could have been so much better. And this is coming from somebody who hopes they do well. The issue is, I think that the messaging wasn't concrete. As far as the Greens were, the Greens are very on message all the time. And again, the sort of leadership debate a week ago, it ended up in some sort of like grand mess. But again, Ross Greer he actually outperformed other leaders.
Niall, I'd like to check you slightly when you say that the Greens are on message. Do you mean they actually have green policies, or?
No, I mean they're as far away from green messages as possible. Like, they're socialist policies, they're not green policies. They're
So no environmentally friendly policies like keeping parks clean.
It's nothing like that at all, Damien. Nothing like as expected. It's all billionaires bad, buses good, free stuff good, billionaires bad.
So
billionaires need to pay more taxes. We need to pay none.
So basic communist stuff, yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Right, okay. Because you'd think. I've always found it strange with the Green Party in general, whether that's the one we've got in England and Wales or the one you have up in Scotland. I've always found it strange that they've got nothing to say about the collateral damage from the wind farms with all the wildlife that's killed. You'd think that would be a green policy, or you'd think they would at least comment on it. But I've never seen anything from the Greens anywhere about anything like that.
That's actually, I mean, that's one of the things that's like actually quite close to my heart, the wind farms, because I look at the windy and look out to the sea, and all I see is wind farms. And when you talk to fishermen, and you're talking, industrial fishermen, they're out on boats, they're out with nets. Anywhere these wind farms go up, the fishermen go down the coast or up the coast to avoid them. So either they're driving eco life to the coast or away from the coast, and because the vibrations it's creating, the birds it's destroying, there's no it's a conflict of interest when it comes to the Greens, because they're in this net zero charge. They want this, let's harvest the wind energy, but at the same time you're killing the ecosystem at the same time.
I mean, you can call me a cynic, but I've always thought that this green agenda is all about, wealth redistribution from the taxpayer, i.e. me, you and Alistair, back up to the top. It's just a Ponzi scheme. If you want greener energy and green policies, these should be economically sustainable, not just environmentally safe and sustainable for the wildlife, but they should actually be cost effective. If it's not cost effective, what are we doing wasting all our money on them? But again, that's just the cynic in me. I could be completely wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct. The Greens have no, what I would call, wealth creation policies. They've no idea how to create wealth at all. All they know how to do is just to tax people, and that you can't tax your way to prosperity.
Have they never heard of the Laffer curve?
Well, if they've heard of that, the idea which that is, the Laffer curve, which is that if you tax less, you'll actually ultimately raise more in taxes, because people will be able to create more of the wealth, which of the money that they keep. They'll be able to invest it and create even more wealth, which will bring in even more taxes. So that's a particular thing. I'm not entirely sure if the Laffer curve is correct or not, although I can follow the logic of it to an extent. But the Greens have just, to the extent that they know about that, they will just not even.
Yeah, but you can look at it from the little man or the woman on the street's point of view. We like more money in our pockets as individuals. We like the idea of less taxes. We like the idea that if you've got less money going into general taxation, then you've got more money to spend. I mean, that's just basic economics. Yeah. But if you expand that upwards to the small business or the corporate, that logic would surely follow all the way up the chain, either way you look at it. That's just...
We're forgetting the fact that the Greens' messaging is hitting home to like the 16 to 24-year-old. They're not hitting, the 30 to 50-year-old thinker who's actually thinking about economics, that have got a family, that actually, it's rigmarole to them when they talk about economics, because they don't care at all, and nor do their voters. I think when I'm talking about how the Greens performed, I think they're capitalising more on the disenchantment with the establishment better than anyone else, if you know what I mean. Like, that's the basic premise.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. That's a good point. That's really all that they're doing there. They're just capitalising upon a certain disenchantment, and people who just like the sound of what they're saying. Oh, it makes sense. Let's tax all the wealthy people. Where it's the thinkers, as you say, the 30 to 50-year-olds who are like, well, who are these wealthy people that you're going to be taxing that are not already struggling quite badly? So yeah, and they've got quite a good TikTok game, the Green Party, in Scotland anyway. I've been watching some of their TikToks, but it's just full of this kind of high-minded language about especially around the question of immigration. Greens have just decided to go all in for it. No nuances, no questions about whether it's a good thing, no thinking about the complications, no difficult choices or anything. It's just like, yeah, let's have it, and let's have more of it, and then let's dress it up as the right thing, the moral thing to do, even though the consequences of their mass immigration has immoral consequences, even though the consequences are bad. But they've just gone really all in on that, as if it's the most wonderful thing since sliced bread. And that's irritating.
The virtue signaling angle that it feeds perfectly into the Green voter mindset. They want their voters to think, oh yes, I'm doing the world a favour voting for the Greens. And truly, that's what these people think. They'll put their green placards up the window, and it's not really to say, oh, you should vote Green as well. That's not what the message is for. It's to say our household is so morally just, so morally perfect that we vote for the Greens. It's no for the passers-by to say, oh, maybe I'll vote for the Greens as well. No, it's a virtue signal. That's just purely what it is. And there's nothing more to it than that. I think it's just, it plays well perfectly into the demographic, the 16 to 24-year-old. And again, I think it might be the first time that 16-year-olds are going to be voting this election as well. Who are they going to be voting? They're going to be voting for the people who's got the best TikTok game, like you're saying, Alistair, because we're all young folk TikTok. So again, it's just, it's just a deadly combination that the Greens are doing now, and it is, when I see the polls, I think everyone's underestimating them. Really do.
It's a good point, and you're right that regarding the 16-year-olds. The 16-year-olds were able to vote back in 2021 as well, but it feels like this time there's been more emphasis on that, especially through social media and especially through TikTok. But what's interesting is, according to this article in the National, which I just was reading the other day, figures released by the National Records of Scotland last month show almost half of 16 to 17-year-olds eligible to vote are not registered. So I don't know what almost half is, but that's maybe 45% of 16 to 17-year-olds are not registered to vote. It says here it gives a figure, around 50,000 of Scottish teenagers eligible to vote in the election are not registered.
That's a problem. It's a problem for the Greens. That's a problem because they need to get those numbers up. Classically, I don't think a 16-year-old is going to be racing at the door to vote. That's the thing. I think, seeing into the future a bit, I could be, sort of dictating to my son or daughter, you will be voting this way. That's the way I see it sort of happening in the 16 to 18-year-old bracket, or at least there has to be a conversation there. Surely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, as Theophilus says, too young to buy alcohol, drive, or get married, but old enough to vote seems utter insanity. And also, this person, 16-year-olds can't smoke, drink, put a bet on, but they can vote. While they're freshly indoctrinated and brainwashed. And that's true because most 16-year-olds these days are still institutionalized at school. And when you think about it, imagine having to, who's dominating their minds? It's their teachers. Let's hope
about 90% of teachers are skew left. So you've got that institutional capture. And it's not just the universities and the primary and high schools. It's also the judiciary. It's also, unfortunately, the monarchy. It's also the civil service. It's also the legacy media. They're all captured by what I call the boomer consensus or the post-world consensus, where soft left policies are the way forward, and it's killing our countries, unfortunately. And that's what you need to look at, in my opinion. You need to sort of look at the real world outcomes of the policies, not whether you agree with the premise of a policy or the premise of what a party stands for is irrelevant. It's the outcomes of the policies. It's the outcomes that they're actually delivering that you need to focus on. When you have your election debates for the devolved Holyrood, is there much talk about the fact that your education standards have gone down the pan since the SNP have got in? Or is it more about, is there more of a focus on the constitutional question or things that basically, frankly, are not within the remit of Holyrood?
You're talking about the constitutional question again. That's someone else that the Greens are capitalising on. You know what I mean? It's just, everything's just funneling into there. Everything you said there, and I absolutely love the phrase, and I'm going to steal it. The boomer consensus. It's just absolutely brilliant, David.
Which is why they're happy with all the migrants coming in, because it puts up the boomers who have actually managed to buy a home. Their equity goes up, so of course they're happy with that. People that want to get on the housing lands and actually own a property, it doesn't help them, but it helps the mum and dad or their grandparents, because the house that they bought for 20 or 30 grand in the 1950s or 1960s is now worth £300,000, £500,000, and they've not earned that money. It's just equity.
It's just inflation.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Well, it's also the supply and demand. The demand, bringing in infinity migrants from the third world, has an effect on everything. People look at these policies things, and they look at them in isolation, whether NHS, whether it's immigration, whether it's the economy. And they talk about these big three, and they always say, it's a ranking, basically, economy stupid, to quote Bill Clinton, then immigration, then basically your welfare or your socialist policies like your NHS. They always talk about these things like they're isolated, like they're in a vacuum, and they don't impact on each other. Guess what? If you had immigration in the tens of thousands, like it was pre-Tony Blair, pre-1997, you might be able to get an NHS appointment the next day. You might be able to afford a property. You may be able to do all of these other things. The roads may actually work. There'll be less potholes in the roads. All of these things are linked. And this is the argument, I would try to make, and people need to try to make both on the devolved level, the local level in councils, and at the national level for the British government as well. You need to say all these things are linked. Nothing's in isolation.
Yeah, I must say, Damon, you're on fire this evening. Absolutely on fire, my friend.
Am I cooking?
Yeah.
You are cooking with gas.
Pete here seems to think so as well. He says, nice to see a Cheshire Cat musing live stream. Not sure how many such live streams Damien has had. And
I can't really take much credit because it's not my live stream. I'm merely a guest, but thank you. I'm merely a guest at this point, but yeah, thank you.
And Pete agrees that you definitely need more subscribers.
Yeah, second that.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah. And so, guys, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe and share. And while I'm at it, let's just say hello to one or two people who came in earlier. Derek is always on form, says good evening. Jordan Linden get 18 months jail sentence. That's former SNP council leader who got into serious trouble.
Yeah, there seems to be a proclivity on the left, not only with the SNP but with the Labour Party. They seem to be very, very. They love the kids a bit too much.
Hands-on, a bit too much hands-on, maybe.
Bit too handsy, maybe a bit too grabby.
Yeah, well, goodness me. Anyway, that's
But I'm surprised the SNP didn't try to delay the court date until after the local elections, or your devolved elections as well. I'm surprised they didn't try to do that. Keir Starmer managed to do that with his Ukrainian models. We're not going to get the verdict of that trial until after the local elections. I'm surprised the SNP's not tried that game with their scandals up in Scotland, to be honest. But
well, some theorists may say that they've done it with the campervan scandal and all that carry on, and we're not going to be. That's not starting until after the Scottish elections. Imagine.
I'm going to be clear on this. I don't think I've commented on the campervan, so I don't think she doesn't know. I think she knows all about it. This is just my opinion. Okay, this is just my opinion, just to be legal about it. This is just my opinion. It's like the Rose West thing in the 1990s when husband Fred West was killing all the people. The jury didn't have any evidence on her, but they came to the conclusion, as a married couple, she must have known. All right? Unless Nicola Sturgeon and Peter Murrell have a lavender marriage, just for show, and they're not, or they weren't actually a married couple, then there's an argument there that maybe she didn't know. But if you take it at the word that it's not a lavender marriage and it's completely legit, then there's no chance she didn't know. That's just my opinion. If you try to keep anything from a woman, it's a nightmare.
You could say that again. And they're very intuitive women as well. They'll catch things out. But this the lavender marriage thing, I think there's probably a bit of truth in that as well. But getting back to, the money that was raised, the money that was supposed to be embezzled, I think it's like 487,000. And that's just off the top of my head. But to think, the SNP voters, right? They've got this, you have to vote SNP because they care about independence. They want the best for Scotland, right? And, well, if that's true, then why weren't they using the money to further that cause?
Wasn't there another one a few years ago, that Natalie McGarry?
Oh, of course.
Wasn't she embezzling money as well?
Yeah, of course. It's a
again, seems to be a trend. Seems to be a bit of a trend in the SNP.
I think they get in and they learn how to embezzle.
Well, clearly not very well if they keep on getting calls.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is just bring up a couple of polls here. The latest one from STV, which has just came out today, and I'd like to ask your thoughts on this. I'll start with Niall. This is good as far as SNP is concerned for us. As you know, we don't want the SNP to get the magic number of 65. 65 would be a majority out of 129. Mm-hmm. This poll projection is putting them at 57, which is considerably fewer than 65. Unfortunately, it's putting the Greens way up at 18, which seems remarkable. So in other words, with the SNP and Greens together, they would have considerable ruling majority there. I can see the SNP figure being perhaps right. I'd like to think they'll come in low. The Green one, I can't see it though, because there's several other parties on the regional list that will take votes from the Greens. There's the Scottish Socialist Party, who never stood in 2021. There's the Workers' Party. There's Independent Green Voice, which will take votes from the Greens, no doubt. It's a genuine Green Party, a rational, sensible one. So the Greens are going to struggle, I think, to get 18. But who knows? What's your thoughts on that, Niall?
I mean, if you can bring up the image again, I think the SNP number is probably about right. The Reform numbers, so I think what we're going to see is, plus or minus 2 for the Green. That could be anywhere between 16 and 20. Just say 18 is a benchmark. But Reform could potentially get anywhere, 22, 24 maybe. At the best case scenario, 24. So I think the only differentiation I'm seeing there, I don't know where the Lib Dems are getting their 11 from. I don't see that number being totally feasible at all. But look at the destruction of the Tories. Look at them.
Yeah.
They've become the Greens, sadly. A non-party, in terminal decline, no big ideas. I mean, again, I keep referencing this leaders debate, but it was very, very enlightening to see, the host, I can't mind his name, Colin something at the STV, but, he was asking for big ideas in order to sort of help Scotland, to build Scotland. And again, there was nothing, a total delve of any ideas coming from all the parties. So, but I think, again, the Green number, sadly, I think is probably close to accurate, unfortunately. I can't see the Lib Dems getting 11, but I think, it's either a toss-up between Reform taking some off the Lib Dems, like plus or minus a couple, Lib Dems go down, but I think the SNP number is probably right.
Well, I'd like to think you're right about the SNP, definitely. Any comments you want to make on that, Damien?
Oh, I have quite a few. What I would say first of all is I've had a long-standing opinion that the devolved elections, people in Scotland vote SNP not because they want independence of Scotland. They vote SNP because they want to troll London. They want to troll Westminster. They can vote SNP as a big two fingers up to the establishment in their view and to the legacy parties that have been ruling the roost down in London. And if you look at the legacy parties, Lib Dems, Conservatives and Labour, they're getting squeezed on all sides, whether that's by the SNP reform or the Green Party. And this is the thing that's transparent across the entire United Kingdom is people want change. They're sick of third politicians, they're sick of career politicians, and they're sick of voting for something and never getting it. And me personally, I've also been told there's some people in Scotland that think that the Green Party are going to outperform Reform. And I've said since Reform launched in Scotland that they're going to beat the Greens, but I'd be interested to know your opinion. Do you think that the Greens are going to do worse than Reform? I mean, what I can not fathom is the disconnect, the gulf between first place and second place. It's not close. It's never been close with the SNP, and I don't really get that. It's like they shout the loudest. The leadership's nothing to write home about. John Swinney's a joke. Thomas Yusuf was a joke. You could make an argument Nicola Sturgeon was an effective politician. I didn't agree with her. You could argue that she was effective, but it doesn't seem to have impacted the standing in terms of votes. So I'm a little bit confused. Do you think I'm onto something with the fact that they vote SNP to control London, or?
Well, I mean, I see a couple of comments, right? There's one that says Holyrood election is it PR proportional representation. Yeah, it's part past first past the post, part proportional representation. But again, this is what feeds the SNP, Damien. This is sort of why I've picked that question out. It's because nobody has the sort of strength to combat the SNP in the constituencies. This is what has always been the problem. And everyone, it's just a sick, sort of twisted list battle that we've got here in Scotland for second place. And it's always been like that. The last two election cycles, let's battle for second place. You know, it's pathetic. And this is what we have, like reform. It goes back to the previous thing that reform's had a great campaign. No, they haven't really. Actually, they could have done so much more. They could have been out every day. They could be doing stunts. They could have been doing, they've got so much money to spend. And yet here we are. They're happy with the list positions. They're happy to battle for the list. Nobody is willing to battle toe-to-toe with SNP in the constituencies, and that's always been the problem.
I don't get that, though. I don't get what the fear is. Why are they so thirsty?
So, I mean, the SNP have classically always got about 30% of the vote, which, it just means that, that they're sort of insurmountable on the constituencies unless you've got a critical mass. But again, this is the number that I'm looking at this image here, 57, and I'm saying to myself, this is what Keir Starmer's done. This is what Keir Starmer's done. The last Westminster election, the SNP got decimated. They got absolutely crushed. It was the worst election ever. And then what's happened? We're looking at this is the Keir Starmer effect. The SNP have come up again because they can just point to Westminster and say, yes, if it wasn't for Keir Starmer, we would not be in this position that we are today. Not a chance. Even if it was slightly competent, it would be great. But
that's a very good point. That's a very good point. A year ago, we all thought that Anas Sarwar was going to be the next First Minister, and Labour seemed to be on a roll. And then various things happened, mainly in England. And Scottish politics always reacts to what happens in England. If Scots move a certain way, it's not usually because of something that's happened in Scotland. It's usually something that's happened in the rest of the United Kingdom. And I'm not the only person to point out the extent to which Scottish politics is kind of follows whatever's happening in England, in a good way as much as a bad way, as well. And as you say, this is really kind of Keir Starmer's doing, and it's definitely unfortunate how that's worked out. I'm just trying to see if
while you're doing that, again, it's not as if the SNP are in a position of ultimate strength here. They're talking about we've got a spineless coward leader in the SNP, John Swinney, absolutely milquetoast all the way. Yes. Just so plain sailing, it's daft. And no big ideas. Again, the same old mantra being marched out time and time again. We will get independence. What's the plan? Who knows what the plan is? We're just going to do it. It's the same old incompetence, just wearing a new jacket.
But the reality is, it's a reserved matter, non-devolved. Even if the SNP won every single seat in Holyrood and demanded a separatist referendum from London, it's not within their gift to demand anything. It's not a devolved matter. That's the fact of the matter. I'm sick, pardon my phrasing, I'm sick and tired of the SNP thinking that they've got some God-given right to break up the United Kingdom. I'm sick of it. They haven't. It's not a devolved matter. As per the Scotland Act 1998, it's a non-issue. I don't understand why the British government even allow it as an indulgence. It really, really bothers me. If I was Prime Minister, yes, you can dream. If I was Prime Minister, I'd be saying, if you continue to discuss the constitutional question, which is not a devolved matter, I will shut Holyrood down. No vote, no referendum, I will shut it down. I will shut Holyrood down. And that would be within my gift as the British Prime Minister to do so, because it's saving and it's protecting the integrity of the United Kingdom. All right? I would be elected to run the entire United Kingdom. And if any of the SNP started kicking up a stink, I would order the military to go in and arrest them. That's just me, though. I'm a bit hardline on this, but you feel free to disagree. By the way, feel free to disagree, but that's just my opinion.
But it's certainly a valid opinion. I personally would draw the line at the military thing, but you're certainly correct as far as...
You wouldn't like to see the military arrest Hamza Yusuf?
I don't think you're
right. He's got you there, Alistair. He's got you there.
Yeah. The thing is, you're correct, though, when you say that basically the British Prime Ministers do not make any kind of proper defence of the Union. And it's what I was talking about last week when I said so many of our politicians are constitutionally illiterate, and Keir Starmer would have trouble even making the case for the United Kingdom. You know, he's kind of grown up with all that point of view that probably doesn't even like the idea too much of the United Kingdom.
Remember his Labour Party, his boss, his last Labour government, Tony Blair, created devolution. All right, it's their pet project. So if it goes tits up, pardon the language, it's on them. Historians, if devolution led to the breakup of the United Kingdom, historians on 100 or 200 years down the line could look back to it and say it was Tony Blair's fault.
Absolutely, and
that would be their legacy as the Labour Party. They broke up the United Kingdom, and I've always thought that devolution was specifically created so no Conservative right of centre government can actually do anything effective. That's why we didn't get a proper Brexit, because they came back and said, oh, look at the SNP, they're agitating for another referendum. Wales isn't happy even though they voted for Brexit. What will happen to Northern Ireland? And they're always looking at all these things, and they gloss over the fact that it was a British vote on a British constitutional matter. It was a unified vote, and to be fair, it makes no difference what the devolved nations voted on it, because it was a bloc British vote. And if you strip out the British vote for Brexit from Scotland and Northern Ireland, it then becomes a Remain vote.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the thing when the separatists always say, well, Scotland voted to Remain. Okay, but over 1 million people, well, I think it's over 40% of Scotland voted to leave. They never get discussed.
Exactly.
And the people that voted, and the people that never voted to, the people in Northern Ireland who voted to leave, they never get discussed either. It's always the majority, the 6% that voted to Remain. They need to. Well, now it's about every voter, surely.
Yeah. No, there's a complete lack of constitutional literacy there, and you said about Tony Blair being responsible for the destruction of potentially the Union in a worst case scenario. And you could be looking tomorrow, right, at the Welsh Senate elections. Now, I love this graphic that I put together. It sums things up so well. This is the last on the right-hand side there, the last 6 elections, the only 6 elections that there's been to the Senate. Not one of them has got over 47% of the electorate bothering to even turn out to vote. Okay, so the Senate has never had a turnout of even 47% of the electorate, let alone half. Now, what has happened as a consequence of setting up that institution is it's given a platform to the Welsh separatists called Plaid Cymru, who could be forming the main executive tomorrow or on Friday. They could be actually running Wales. A separatist party has been given a platform to destroy and to pull Wales away from the United Kingdom, a platform that itself is democratically illegitimate because it's never even had 50% of people voting for it.
If that happened, all of the devolved nations would have separatists in. Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland, SNP in Scotland, and Plaid Cymru in Wales.
Yes.
Well, that's what we're looking at now.
And that is a problem, and that could put pressure upon a weak Labour government to do things like, something crazy like grant a second referendum. So it's not, these threats are not going away so long as we have weak central leadership.
Here's an interesting thing, though, that I've been thinking about. Here's something very interesting. All right, Labour in Scotland, their bread and butter for the past 20 years has been vote us so you don't get the SNP. That's basically, if you want nice socialist policies but you want to stay in the United Kingdom, vote Labour. But now, in Wales currently, we've got a minority government in Wales being propped up by Plaid Cymru. That's state of play today. Now, what I think will happen tomorrow and Friday is Reform UK will become the largest party in Wales. It will be close between Reform UK and Plaid Cymru.
Okay.
They'll be first and second. However, SNP, Plaid Cymru will be a minority government and Labour will be propping them up in Wales. So it'll be an inverse of what's currently happening. They'll just flip roles. So Labour will become the junior partner and it'll either be a coalition or supply confidence supply arrangement. So that also makes Scottish Labour implode even further because they can never say, vote for us to keep the separatists out ever again. Because you can point to Wales and say, look at the hypocrisy. They can never use that. They can never use that as a valid argument again.
That's a good point. If the Welsh Labour went with Plaid, then
at the moment,
Scottish Labour would be expected almost to do the same thing and go with the SNP. Or at least they could never say, trust us, we won't touch the SNP if their brothers and sisters down in Wales were doing the same.
Well, at the moment, as I say, they're propped up by Plaid Cymru. They've got a minority administration and they're dependent on Plaid votes and Green votes to get their business through in the Senate. So as I say, that's what I think they will do. They will team up again to lock Reform out, even though Reform will be the largest party. But I do think it will be close.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's eerie to look at the sort of mirror image that's happening in Scotland and Wales. And of course, they're talking and they're sort of mirroring each other's moves. And I can imagine what the Green Party in Wales, they'll soon be Welsh nationalists as well.
Mm-hmm.
If they're currently undeclared, I'm not really sure about their status.
Well, that's the thing. I'm a bit unsure as well because they haven't got a separate party. It's the Green Party of England and Wales.
Right.
So they've got Zach Palansky as well. And basically, there's only a separate Scottish Green Party. So it's whatever Zach Palansky's policy is on the union, when he's not trying to enlarge breasts of females.
Through hypnosis.
His policy is the very weak one that, if Scotland votes for separation, by which he means if they elect a majority of seats for the SNP and Greens, then somehow this requires that mandates a second referendum. That's his policy for Scotland. So presumably his policy on Wales would be if Plaid voted.
But the letter of the law...
if Plaid got the majority of seats, then they should have some kind of referendum. Presumably that would be it.
I always come back to the letter of the law of the Scotland Act 1998. It says it's not within the gift of any devolved administration to demand anything. Essentially, the Scotland Act makes it clear that devolution is merely an indulgence. It's allowed because the British government allow it. I hate the phrase UK government, by the way. I'll always say British government. I think it sounds more imperial. But the British government has every right to say no, as they should, always. It's not even on the table. It specifically says that the union between England, Wales and Northern Ireland is not up for discussion. And yet, for the past 20 years, that seems to be all you're talking about in Scotland. And to be fair, aren't you bored? Weren't you bored in 2008, the year after they got elected? I mean, I don't understand the appeal. And that's why I've come to the conclusion that it's nothing more than a big, big troll. They're just doing a troll job. That's all it is. It's like people back in the day when they used to vote UKIP. It's just a big troll. It's a big troll to London. That's all it is.
Yeah. I don't know about that really. I think that there are just a lot of people who genuinely believe.
You watched Braveheart and thought it was real.
Yeah. There are a lot of people like that. There is a hardcore anyway like that, and there's a lot of other people that just say, "Oh, it sounds good. I'll vote for them because they've got the word Scotland in the name and it's Scotland National. I'll vote for that," and it doesn't really go much beyond that. Although some people, some of them wake up. I read the National yesterday, and I just want to read this. This is part of a letter, and from a lady in Glasgow in the National. Time will tell, but the arrival of an increased group of Green MSPs fills me with trepidation and even just a little fear. Based on the experience of recent years, I worry about their potential lack of real-world experience outside of organised protesting. We need people who have lived a life beyond school, university, and working for friendly politicians. Simply calling for bans on everything from homework to horse racing and increasing the availability of free stuff will not solve the fundamental financial problems the Scottish Parliament will have to face in the coming years. We need folk with ambition for the Scotland of the future, not folk consumed with jealousy for others and a desire to level us all down to something approaching average.
They've been watching your show, Alistair. They've been watching your show. Watching your show. No, I think, I mean, the types of people, I mean, the Greens are like, it feels like they're like accelerationists. They want like dystopia now. Well, unlimited free stuff until the system breaks, dystopia now. The SNP voters, you can actually like, you can sympathise and empathise with the fact that, of course, like Westminster is just, it's not really functioning in the way that we want it as the British people at all. I mean, Keir Starmer is just, they get elected with a mandate, just break all the promises straight away. It's, you can empathise with that. Of course you can. But, the system, it's no worth tearing away from that to then, have a gaggle of incompetent fools here in Scotland either. It's crazy to think that, and to think that Scotland would do any better. It's just, it's a pipe dream. It really is. It's a pipe dream. If the West, the whole geopolitical climate now is very, very treacherous indeed. Very treacherous indeed. And we need to stick together in this. Otherwise, we're doomed for failure. And you think that, all the Chinese spies over the last few years, all this spy drama that's going on, even the Scottish Labour MP, at the nuclear bases, working for China. You're like, what is going on at the highest levels of government? It's treachery at the highest level. It's double agent stuff. That they're trying to take down the UK. That's what's happening here.
Well, as I say, it's about making sure that the unified British voting bloc that was there pre-1997 is not unified. A house divided cannot stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's simply because if you've got your SNP in Scotland saying, "Well, England's doing this. What about Scotland? What about Scotland? What about Scotland?" And then you've got the separatists in Wales and Northern Ireland doing the same thing. What about us? What about us? What about us? Then it's much harder to get a right of centre government actually to do anything effective, even if they get in. Because simply put, the political cowards, they don't want to stand on their promises to the electorate. They don't want to actually do anything to make meaningful change for everybody in Britain. They would rather just take the backhander from the communists in China or their pals in the EU and not do anything about it and not do anything about the problems that are really affecting all of us.
I mean, that's the sort of society we're living in today, though, where we're so disconnected with each other that, doing something for your neighbour feels ridiculous. Everyone's out for themselves. It's you can feel that in everyday day life. I'd done a speech recently. I was saying, become selfish. It's all about you and your family. I was making the point that if you know it were to sort of vote me into power, you know, I would do immediately what is best for my family. Of course I would, but that would then mean it's you know it's better for everyone else's family, if you know what I mean. Anyway,
well, I've got the mentality because I don't know about you two, but I'm working class. I'm from working class, meaning I have to go out and work. I don't have the luxury of trust funds or anything like that.
Neither have Niall and myself, I don't think.
Okay, so I would always look at it on the individual basis of how's this going to affect my bottom line? Is this going to make me and my lot, i.e. the working class people, better or worse off? When I see Labour politicians or SNP politicians saying infinity migrants is great for everybody, I call bull on that straight away. It's good for the corporate structures that want cheap labour. It's good for the housing market, and it's good for the boomers because their property prices go up. It's not good for the little guy or the little girl that want to get on or is just starting out. It's not good for anybody that thinks that the United Kingdom or the citizens of the United Kingdom should come first in their own country. Because the NHS becomes an international health service where anybody can fly in and get free stuff. And it's the same with universities. In England and Wales, we had a scandal recently where we got revealed that we give student loans to people here on study visas. So that's our British banks and building societies in England giving student loans to Romanians, for example. They come in, they get their student loan payments, their bursary payments, and then they leave the country. They're not going to pay that back, and there's no way to reinforce, or because you can't send international creditors out to Romanians. And then, but it's a cycle. They'll come back and do the same thing the next year and get another, and again, and you get it in the universities, where the universities are looking at it and they're like, these are the same people that were here last year. They're going to drop out after 2 weeks when they get the student loan payments. Go back to Romania, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It's like, who's paying for this? We're all paying. We're all paying for it. It's a big con.
Everyone's just looking for the new angle, the new scam. Everyone's just trying to extract as much money as possible,
including the politicians,
as quick as possible. Exactly. Well, this is my point, right? Everyone is trying to extract as much. And why are people doing that? That's the question to me. Why are people racing to extract as much from the system as they possibly can? It's because we all know we're in some sort of doom cycle here. Like the UK is in a doom cycle. The Western world is almost in a doom cycle. I mean, a financial crash is just on the horizon now. We've got this AI sort of revolution happening now that I'm sort of embracing because I don't think there's anything much else to do. But you know, this is going to it's going to kill 80% of the jobs. We're in this new territory where no one knows what's up and what's down. And of course, you've got wars happening all over the world. You've got this, you know, what's it called, facilities trap, where, you know, China's the rising superpower and America's waning. We're looking at, and there's so much instability everywhere. That this is why I think the race for to extract as much as possible for any system that you can possibly see is happening. Whereas we just need to be we need to ground ourselves, close all the borders, insulate ourselves off, no more migrants, no more anything, and just become a sort of insular economy for the foreseeable future. You know, I just don't see anything else happening. Like, it's any other way to sort of solve the problem. I really don't.
Point. It's a good point, and it may be that there is going to take some kind of serious financial crash before we start getting like serious politicians, because the Greens, for example, the Scottish Greens can pretend that everything could be free, and to an extent at the moment they might get away with that. But if the economy was to seriously crash, then their so-called economic policy would just be laughed out of town. And so, because it has no conception, as I was saying earlier, of how wealth is even created in the first place for you to tax. So it might, I hate to say it's going to take some kind of crazy situation like that before people get serious.
I do think we're going to have a sovereign debt crisis before the next general election, and the IMF won't even bail us out because the debt is so big.
Yeah.
And that means one thing, and that's austerity.
Yeah.
That lovely word. But here's the thing, it's only austerity for the people that want the freebies. That's what they say when they say austerity. It's people that want the free stuff. The free stuff. They will take a hit, but people who are actually either independently wealthy, wealth creators, or people that are going out. I mean, me personally, when we had the credit crunch in the late 2000s, it didn't impact me directly. I had a full-time job. I was working full-time. Prices might have gone up a bit, but it didn't affect me on a personal level, on an individual level. So when they say austerity, what they mean is there was a crunch on benefits, the benefit culture. That's what they're talking about, less free stuff.
Yeah. Although if what Niall is saying is correct, which is that there's going to be an awful lot of compulsory redundancy as a consequence of AI, then one needs to say, well, where are, people need money to live. So, the benefit culture, if you want to call it that, isn't going to go away. And it might even, more people may need to be getting benefits if they literally can't get a job. We're not there yet, but I mean, that could go either
way. I mean, see, the AI tools that I've been using, just as an anecdotal thing, I feel that I can accomplish anything I want with AI tools that I'm using. So it feels like there's actually more possibilities. But at the same time, of course, you want to automate everything, and then you want to run a company with zero staff. That's the thing. But it feels like, there's 1,000 opportunities. You feel like there's not enough time in the day to work now, which is it's a weird paradigm. AI is supposed to free up your time. But actually, when you've got the tools and you've got it, and you're like, well, actually, I can do anything, you feel that you've not enough days and hours in the day. So it's one of these things. It's a very weird path we're treading here.
You've not been putting Keir Starmer in bikinis, have you, Niall?
No. Well, not publicly, at least. But
I was going to say, you've got you arrested for that,
Well, we have got an image that I did make from AI.
Yes. Let's talk about that. This was the image, and congratulations to Niall for running this project, which is a digital billboard, which has appeared at 11, which is appearing as we speak at 11 sites throughout Scotland. It relates back to John Swinney's educational program of teaching children things that are not appropriate for them. And it's been running, that billboard's been running for 7 days. It finishes tonight at midnight, just on the eve of the Scottish election, promoted by Niall Fraser. Niall raised a wee bit of cash for that and got it out there. And here's another angle of a billboard in Glasgow, 2 sides of the billboard at a junction.
And in
a busy main road. So well done to Niall for putting that project out there.
It's again, I thought it was I made a post about it, but I thought it's avant-garde trolling, avant-garde tier trolling. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It's so cutting edge, it's unbelievable, because people are going to walk past that and say, what the hell is happening in that picture? I mean, why is he holding a banana? Why is there a jar of Nutella there? What is he teaching our children?
We don't want to find out. That's the thing. But indeed, what is he teaching our children? Well, the election is tomorrow. The polls are open from 7 o'clock until 10 o'clock. I made a list here of all the parties that are standing that want to break up the United Kingdom. We have the SNP, the Scottish Cabbage Party, also known as the Scottish Green Party. The Scottish Socialist Party, a group called Alliance to Liberate Scotland, something called the Scottish Common Party, which, don't get me started, something called Independence for Scotland Party, which is surprisingly enough for Independence for Scotland. For some reason, the Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition think that separate Scotland is going to be good for the British working class. I hardly think so. And unfortunately, George Galloway's Workers' Party has taken.
He's
the
not
wrong
changed his
turning.
stance on the separatist question, has he?
He has
unfortunately. He's changed it. Can you believe it? Talk about jumping ship.
Damien, just 5 years ago, I ran with George, alongside George, in Alliance for Unity, a party dedicated to protect the Union.
Yeah.
I
So
got this
what's put into
campaign
him, I don't know.
Recently, I got this through,
All right.
which I thought was quite funny. But I'm probably holding my nose on voting reform tomorrow in my local elections. I thought I was going to have, because I asked Dodgy AI when my next election was locally, and the Dodgy AI came back with the response, it was in 2027. So I was like, right, okay, I've got 2 years. I don't have to make any big decisions about who to vote for just yet. And then, so do I. And then I got told that the way that my local council runs is they stagger their elections. So we elect a third of our council every year. And then on the fourth year, they sit it out and there's no elections. So 11 are up for grabs tomorrow, 11 next year, and then 11 the year after, and then they sit out before. It's strange. It is strange, but it's a Labour-run council. It's never been anything but Labour. I'll give you an example. There's 30 seats in my council, Halton Borough Council, for Runcorn and Widnes, and we've got 29 Labour councillors and 1 independent who defected to Reform UK within the last year. So that's the makeup of my local council. 29 Labour.
Brutal.
So if they, and this is a thing, turnout in England for council elections is historically around 30%. So if tomorrow we get 11 Reform councillors, that's a turn up for the books. And that's not a ringing endorsement of Reform UK. There's many issues with Reform UK, but that's another video. That we can talk about that next time. Restore Britain would do well. I think any like-minded right of centre party would do well. I've been heard on the grapevine that Restore Britain would do very well in Scotland as well. We'll have to see how that plays out in the next few years. But it's all about people don't like the Uni Party, they're sick of Tories, they're sick of Labour, and they're sick of the Lib Dums. And I will call them Lib Dums because if you look at Ed Davey, he's not serious.
No.
Yes.
I think they actually sort of campaign on being unserious. If you, if you remember all his antics during the campaign.
But as soon as the shires in the southwest start to get a bit diversified, I'm sure they'll go very UKP, very Reform, very Restore Britain very quickly.
Could you put up the image of the independent parties again, Alistair, just so, because I can't wait to see what we see. Was it the Alliance to Liberate Scotland? See, the Alliance to Liberate Scotland, I can't wait for their vote share to be crushed by independent Green Voice. Can't wait for it to happen.
we'll just have to see. I just want to say thank you to Derek there for £5 super chat. He says, "Great show, guys. Brilliant work. Love the billboards." That's fantastic work. Thank you, Derek. Yes, thank our man Niall. Now we'll just round up here, but I want to kind of leave you with something, some good news. And somebody put out their own poll today, and this is a chat from a think tank who reckons that this is what it's going to look like tomorrow, and that's SNP on 51 and the Greens down at 10. And so if you added SNP together to the Greens, they would get 61. They wouldn't even get close to 65, which is the magic number. They wouldn't even get close together. And I don't know what that's based on, other more than like, just trust me, bro. I don't know what he based that on, but that's his Holyrood prediction. And I do hope that whoever this chap is, I do hope that he's correct. SNP would be 14 short of a majority, and these are the first past the post seats which he reckons they will lose. And he may well be correct, and I do hope that he is correct on that. Any thoughts on that, Niall?
I mean, it's speculative at best. I mean, I follow Dean as well, and generally, I'd be looking at that and then I'd be retweeting it straight away, saying unbelievable, fantastic. But I just don't see it. I don't think there's many seats that the SNP are going to lose first past the post. The Lib Dem number +8, just don't see it happening. I don't know where he's getting this information from. Again, the Reform +24. I think at best you might be looking at 22 at a best case scenario. I don't think they're going to get 2 in every region straight up. The Conservatives, I don't think they're going to get 12. So I just, there's a few things in there that,
Do you reckon Craig Houston's going to get his seat?
I've been trying to help him along the way. I've been pushing him. If legitimately he's the only person that I've sort of supported this entire election, other than the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom, those guys, because I know them personally and I know they're good guys. But other than that, Craig Houston, he deserves a shot. He's put a lot into this. He's went down the same route as me and got the billboards. He's again. I truly think that, on balance, would you rather have Thomas Kerr of Reform representing Glasgow, or would you rather have Craig Houston? From a unionist perspective, I think you're Craig Houston all day, every day. I don't think you're
I think
going to go
it'd be
near.
fun to see him roast Ross Greer in Hollywood. That'd be hysterical.
I mean, in confidence, he's told me what he would do, what he could do. When and if he gets in, but
are they protected by the same? Are they protected by the same parliamentary privilege that you get in Westminster? Or is it different?
You don't get that up here. You just get you just get the lawyers' letters. I think about
it. To get elected in Glasgow, where Craig is standing, he would need, well, if he got 6.25% of the vote on the day, he would definitely be elected. Now, you can get elected. You can get elected on slightly less than that, depending upon how the votes fall, and depending upon the share of votes here, there, and everywhere, especially in the share of the votes in the constituencies on the first ballot, etc. But if he got 6.25% on the regional ballot paper, he would be elected. But as Niall was just saying, that's a lot of votes. That's minimum 15,000 votes. Last time around, the person who got elected on the 7th seat, the final seat, got 18,500 votes. Now, I predict that the turnout will be less this year. So probably the final seat will go for maybe between 15 and 18,000 votes. But that's a lot of votes. That is a lot of votes.
I've also been told, for some strange reason, you're not counting your votes until the day after the election, for some strange reason. Is it the SNP want to be different, or do they want to, I don't know, find some additional voters, shall we say, maybe in the 24 hours after the election?
It'll be to be different, almost certainly. If England's doing something one way, Scotland will do it the opposite way. That's been the case for hundreds of years now. So any final words, Niall, before we wind up?
If you can put a comment up, it's one of the last comments there. It's Emmanuel Goldstein, UK. In Scottish pubs, do you hear primarily left-leaning or rhetoric, or do you hear the winds changing it? I mean, without exaggeration, the last time I was in the local pub, there was a man wearing a Crusader helmet. So I don't legitimately. It's like a trend or something. I don't know. I don't understand it. But yeah, that's how right-leaning things are becoming. People are just walking about town, Crusader helmet on, like they're going on a crusade.
I know it's early doors at this point. It's early doors, but is there any buzz on Restore Britain up in Scotland yet?
There's a massive buzz. I mean, I'd be, but again, it's like I'm trying to disconnect myself from the sort of social media bubble. But again, if you're purely judging on social media, there is a buzz. I've seen pictures of the branch meetings. It's definitely connected up here, Damien.
So it has transpired up in Scotland, and it's not just an English phenomenon.
No, it seems to be. And I was at a private meeting, recently with heads of business, and somebody who wasn't really political at all, had said, "Oh, there is one person I like," and it was Rupert Lowe.
You wasn't hobnobbing with Duncan Bannatyne, was you?
No, I mean I think he's over in Portugal. Sunning himself
he's back in Restore Britain. He's back in them, and he was like the common sense dragon on Dragon Sense. So,
well, I have got some agents, what should we say, in Portugal, trying to track him down. But it's definitely not a phenomenon that's gone away, Damien. I think Restore are they're only going to increase in popularity if Rupert Lowe maintains tact.
I attended the launch of my local branch of Restore Britain yesterday.
And
for Runcorn and Helsby and South Wirral. I didn't really want to bring it up too much in this one, simply because there's an election tomorrow and Restore on the ballot, so it's sort of muddying the water. It doesn't need to be muddied just yet, but it was very positive.
Buddy, eyes up here.
We'll leave on that point. Don't get us started on the rights and wrongs of the voting system up here, or we'll be here forever. But thanks to our guests, Niall and Damien. Catherine says, brilliant show. Paul says, this must be a record-breaking episode in length.
Well, I thought you were actually stellar tonight. You were on fire tonight, Damien. So you maybe should do more live streams because I think it captures the best.
Absolutely.
Well, it does. You can just go with the flow, and it has been a bit longer than I anticipated, to be honest. We've gone over an hour so far, but it's good. I mean, and I like to speak to like-minded people around the country, and it's good that we're not in back to what Niall was saying earlier, where sometimes you can feel siloed off, and we're sort of individual echo chambers. And there's the same thing with this Restore Britain meeting that I had yesterday. It's good just to meet up with people and know that you're not alone. And there's a lot of people that are thinking the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's a perfect note to leave it.
On that thought, let's leave it at that. And thanks for all the comments that came in tonight. Do appreciate it. Damien, we'll say goodbye. We'll see you next time, which won't be a long time. And Niall, good night to you also.
Good night, everyone.
Guys.
Thanks for your time.